Hello and welcome to yet another vlog. I always feel so awkward like making these intros. I feel like I'm so bad at it, and then once I get past the intro I'm like feel much more natural. But anyway, hi, hello, welcome to today's vlog. We are going to be doing a reading hobby mismatch type of vlog today. Honestly, the last vlog I posted performed horribly, but that could have been my fault with like just marketing issues with the thumbnail. But we're moving on, and I make these videos just like for myself also to look back on because it's fun to know what I was up to and what I was thinking, how I was feeling, all that good stuff. Today's Friday. We just got back from a birthday trip to Arizona. I try to go to Arizona to visit my sister every end of September, October, beginning of October for my birthday, and my fiance and I went there for about 5 days. It was a really lovely trip. My trip was so awesome and amazing, and I'm happy to be home because I have a long to-do list, but my god, someone's staring at me. So I was just at Angel Food Bakery. They have amazing donuts, pretzels, coffee. It was a really nice time. I read a little bit and caught up in my journal, and then I'm gonna go to Half Price to see what they have for books. Let's go to Half Price. Rowdy. Oh. Hello, I'm back. I got quite a few books, honestly, and I got a friend. Little Friday. Isn't he so cute? Little like vampire, little spooky Spider-Man. I love him. Half Price, I have like a love-hate relationship with Half Price because I always feel like it's really inconsistent obviously it can be kind of inconsistent with what you can get there because it's secondhand. So really popular books are typically hard to find unless they're like an old popular book. And then it's really easy to find. So I have been going and rereading some of the like classic, or rereading and or reading like classic YA dystopian books that are just like comforting. They're like my palate cleanser books. So if I've been reading a lot of books that either put me in a reading rut or I just like need something fast, quick, and like mindless, I've been reading these types of books. So I read the first book in the selection series, or reread it this summer, and then I picked up the next two, and then I picked up the second book in the Red Queen series. I read the first, I want to say 2 to 3 books of these like in 2017, and then I kind of stopped liking it. I thought it just got kind of, I don't know, either repetitive or boring. For whatever reason, I stopped reading it, and then I was watching a drama video. I was watching a video. I'm gonna try to find it. I think the person's name was like Mackenzie or Natasha or something. They did like a whole video comparing Powerless and Red Queen, and like piqued my interest again in Red Queen. So I picked up Glass Sword. I already own Red Queen. And then this seems so random, but I picked up Dream Thieves as well because I don't own any of the Raven Cycle, even though I love that series and it's on the top of my like reread list. So they didn't have any other copies in paperback. I only really like reading paperback books. I don't really like hardcover. It makes like it's so hard to travel with it, and they're just uncomfortable to read. So I decided instead of just like being greedy and buying whatever they had there, I'll just like slowly build my collection. So it's a little out of order, but that's what I got from Half Price. Okay, I have a very sleepy puppy, but he really needs a walk. So I'm going to take him for a little walk.
I wanted to sit down and give a big old update and chat about the recent books that I've been reading. Number one, My Roommate is a Vampire by, I think it's called I think her name is Jennifer Lynn, but if not, I'm going to put the book cover here so that you know what I'm talking about. And then I also want to give an update on the Shatter Me series since I'm now on the third book, Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi. I wrote down my thoughts about My Roommate as a Vampire just so like I don't forget anything. I've started doing that so that it's easier to, well, that's my thoughts on Unravel Me, but that way I just make a pros and cons list, and it's just easy to really see what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I'm not getting like caught up in trying to write something like super well written, and then I have my thoughts at a glance on all the books that I'm reading. So My Roommate is Vampire. If you don't know the premise, it's about a woman whose roommate is vampire. She's a starving artist. She works a lot of part-time jobs. She's getting evicted from her um apartment. So she's looking for someplace with affordable rent and she needs it like yesterday. So the book starts off when she's like with her friend and her friend shows her this ad on Craigslist and like worth a shot. It's supposedly this beautiful apartment in um is it called the Loop or whatever in Chicago, right on the river. Beautiful apartment, like um hardwood floors, big windows, and it's $400 a month or something like that. $200, $400, something like insane. And she's like, that absolutely it was written by a serial killer. And her friend is like, no, it's worth a shot, whatever. So she ends up going for it. She like takes the bait. She emails the guy. She's like, hey, like, can I see some pictures? Because he didn't include any pictures in the ad, another red flag. And he texts like very formally. There's like tons of red flags right off the bat, but she's like so desperate for an apartment that she's willing to overlook them. She goes and sees the apartment. It's beautiful, although slightly strangely, like, outdated and has, like, tons of different decorations from, like, different eras, and it's kinda confusing. It's super dark in there, but it's beautiful, and he's, of course, insanely hot and kind of cold to the touch. And they fall in love, and it turns out that he is a vampire. It's a fun book. It's very lighthearted. There's not a whole lot at stake. One thing I wrote down that I did like is there's like no like what is it called? Like the two-thirds or three-quarter crisis. Like there's nothing like that. There is something that slightly goes awry, but there's no big dramatic feelings. There's no miscommunication trope. It's all fairly kind of to the point. These are adults. Like this is an adult romantasy book. So you're not dealing with teenagers being stupid. You're not dealing with people who are like 18 being stupid. They're like in their 30s. Some things that I liked that it was an easygoing plot. There was no frustrating crisis. So that was a point for it. The main male character is very endearing and he's just so cute. Like he's very not naive. Naive is not the right word, but he's very like wholesome. He's learning a lot of new things about the modern world. He's very stuck in his old ways. He like watches Korean dramas. Like he's so cute. And there's also a lot of like laugh out loud, really funny moments that I appreciated. Books don't often make me laugh out loud, and there's actually quite a few books that I was like, okay, that was funny. Plot itself, like obviously, like My Roommate is a Vampire is quite an unrealistic plot. Like it's a fantasy. It's not meant to be this like hard hitting expose or like something that you're supposed to be able to relate to all that much. The world felt grounded. Like you felt like it was your everyday world. You felt connected to it in that sense. It was very quote unquote realistic. But then it had some of those like really funny, ridiculous moments because he is a vampire. And I appreciated those moments for like little comic relief. So those were really fun. Some of my cons, I didn't really get the hype of the main female lead. Um, Frederick, who's our vampire, is like obsessed with her and he thinks like she walks on clouds and like sunlight is like shooting out of her fingertips. But she just like I didn't really find that to be true. Like, she was fine. She was like a normal person, but she wasn't like there wasn't a lot to be shown for her being like this overly super kind, super talented, super like charming person. She was just like a regular person. So it was a little bit funny to me when he's like, "No, you're like doting on her." And I'm like, she's just like normal. But I guess when you're in love, you're in love. Um, I didn't appreciate the struggling artist trope just because I am an artist myself. And I also didn't like the struggling artist trope that makes ugly art that people don't understand. I felt like it was such a stereotype that was just like used, and the author didn't really do any research regarding like art, different mediums, like what it takes to be an artist. Like it felt like that was just an easy thing to make Cassie have like personality was like, "Oh, I'll make her an artist," but there was no thought really put into that. So, as an artist myself, there's just some things that like really bugged me. Like she kept saying that she would do watercolor on canvas, and unless the canvas is like linen, you don't do watercolors on canvas. It needs to soak into something, and typically canvases are gessoed, and that would prevent the it would literally the watercolor would just run off. It wouldn't soak in. So that bothered me, and she makes ugly art. And so I was like, I don't like this is the stuff at the art fair that everyone like walks by. I think it could have been funny if she made, like, really good like, she was super talented oil painter, but only those pet portraits that where they're in the, like, historical clothing. Like, I think something like that could have been really funny, added character to her, but instead she just made, like, really ugly art, and she's like, "But no one understands it," and that bothered me. We need to talk about Unravel Me and Ignite Me. I meant to update you guys along the way as I was reading Ignite Me, and then I just like got sucked into it and I read the whole thing in like a couple days. So where do I even start? Let's start with Unravel Me. Okay, let me look up my notes. I just finished Ignite Me, and so that's what's like fresh in my mind. I loved Aaron Warner. A cutie patoot. We love like a dark man who is actually very soft and sensitive, but thinks he's like bad for everyone or like just rude. And I love that he's like undeniably like, I don't care about you guys. Like, I think that more happens in Ignite Me, but in Unravel Me, he's like very clearly like, I am what I am. I like that he embraces that. He doesn't feel guilt about that. Confident. He is, I think, in Unravel Me, only present towards the end. Honestly, I read Shatter Me a while ago, and I didn't remember him telling... I don't want to go too much into spoilers, so love him. Kenji, saving grace. He was one of the only redeeming factors in this book because it's self-pity city for like 2/3 of the book, if not more, and that is almost unbearable, but I knew I just had to push through, and it gets better towards the end of Unravel Me. Kenji, loved him and his comedic timing, and he's one of the only people that actually like tells Juliet to just like suck it up, you know? He's kind of like, dude, we get it, you're sad, you're traumatized, where is that gonna get you? So appreciate his honesty, and also that he's like a badass bitch. Like, I love that he's high ranking. I love that he's trusted and that he's respected, and he's still very goofy. He says some questionable things sometimes, but I have a lot of love for him. Cons, the self-pity city, already touched on that. It's almost unbearable. Adam, so annoying. He is so annoying. But I think that's on purpose, but it's still like unbearable to read. Juliet can also be annoying, but she is like annoying in a forgivable way because like obviously she's like was on the brink of insanity. That all happened only a couple months ago, if even that. Like I think it's like even like a couple weeks ago that she was like still in prison. She was being like tortured by Aaron, like all that stuff happened really recently. So I get it, girl, you gotta heal, but it's not that fun to like read a book inside an insane person's POV. Like, I already gotta live in here, okay? I don't need to also live in my escape with an insane person. That does get better towards the end, and these books are fairly short, so you're not like signing up for a whole, if this was like a 700-page book and 2/3 of it was Self-Pity City, I'd have a hard time, but it's like not that long. I read it on my Kindle, so I don't really know, but like Shatter Me was like that thick. What else do I have on here? Oh, a lot of wallowing. Okay, the writing style is sometimes distracting. I had the same thing when I was reading the Daisy Hates book, because in Daisy Hates there's like 700 footnotes, so you're constantly having to flip from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And in this book there's a lot of like poetic waxing like paragraphs, and then also like it's formatted almost like a poem sometimes, and then sometimes there's like she'll write something and then she crosses it out because it's supposed to feel like a diary. I understand the artistic intention behind it, but it got really distracting and it pulled me out of the story. Honestly, sometimes when Juliet was like so like la da 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 da, I skipped over it because it's like, girl, we get it, we get it, you're a crumbling pile of bones, we get it. So that's my thoughts on Unravel Me. Now, Ignite Me. Oh my god. I feel so conflicted. I think all of these I'm gonna end up, I think Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and what's the other one? Ignite Me. Those are all going to end up being like 3-star reads for me, but for different reasons. So different things bothered me. Like one thing would get better in a book and then another thing got introduced to be a con. So like in Ignite Me, the distracting writing was much better. She's not quite as, the self-pity, really, we get a lot less of that. There's much less like poetry type writing, really long paragraphs of like, there's still a lot of flowery language, but it's less distracting. Juliet's generally less annoying, but then there's things that it's like with the plot that just can't really stand up if you think about it too hard, and I'm not reading these books to really think about them, so it's fine. But at the end of Ignite Me, something happens. I'm trying to think. I'm just gonna spoil it, because if you don't want spoilers, tune out now, but I'm gonna spoil it. At the end of Ignite Me, she kills the supreme leader, the bad guy leader of the army. Good for her. He needed to be gone. He was a horrible man. But then she's like, just declares herself the leader of Section 45, and or like then I think her plan is to like take over America. I'm like, girl, you are 17. So not only did that happen at the end where she's like, I'm the leader now, and everyone's just like, cool, but that happens in the like towards the end of the book, or kind of in the last 3/4 of the book. Their plan to even win that battle to get her to kill the main supreme leader guy was to take over this small unit that her boyfriend is the leader of. And their plan for that is for Juliet to just go up and be like, hi guys, I'm alive, remember me, I'm super powerful, I want to lead you guys, I want to restore humanity, join me. And she like does some power shit, and all the soldiers are like, cool, let's follow the 17-year-old girl who was insane 6 months ago. Good plan. Has no experience in the world. She doesn't have social experience. She doesn't have political experience. She doesn't have battle experience. And yeah, she's our choice. I am gonna have to suspend my belief for this one because girl, like, even reading Hunger Games, Katniss was never the leader.
of the army. Like, she was influential, she was valued, she was respected. She did not know how to fucking lead a country though. Like we needed another option that wasn't the 17-year-old girl who was on the brink of insanity and has no life experience, and then all of a sudden is like, I'm the commander of the army. I can't, like, it's just a little I was literally giggling at the end where she's like, she's going through the battlefield and she's like, the soldiers are saluting, and I realized they're my soldiers. Like, girly pop, proud of you. Like, you've come a long way, but are you commander of an army type level? Are we quite there yet? I am notorious for spoiling things for myself, so I have gone and read a little bit about, I don't know a lot about the plot, but I know like relationship statuses, like who ends up with who. So I do know that, and when I was googling that, I saw a spoiler that Juliet becomes the like commander of Omega Point, which is the like group of revolutionaries that's separate from like the cool current leading like military. So I saw that she became the leader of the Omega Point, and I was like, oh, we must get a time hop. I assumed we got a time hop before she became the leader. I in no way, in no world, believed that 17-year-old Juliet, fresh out the slammer Juliet, was going to become the leader of Omega Point. That's a big pill to swallow for me. But again, my standards for this book, like, what was I expecting? I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I just, like, that even shocked me, even though my expectations were on, like, the bar was on the ground, and now it's in the basement. Cool. I did download like all the books. There was 99 cents on Kindle. So I have all the books. I'm going to take like a 20-minute breather, and then we'll hop right into whatever the next one is, like smother me something, I don't know. Restore Me is the next one, and then after that is Defy Me. These have high ratings, y'all. Shatter Me, the first book, is the one with the lowest ratings, which, understandable, that typically happens where you have the first book having the lowest ratings. The people who didn't like it drop off of reading the following ones, and then the following ones typically have higher ratings, but it still stands at a 3.84. Unravel Me was a 4.11, and Ignite Me, I think, was even higher than that, a 4.45 on Goodreads. The other thing I forgot to mention is, like, this is YA. It reads like YA. Some of like the scenes, like the romantic scenes, took me by surprise. I was not expecting them to be as like intimate as they are. I'm aging everyone up, okay? This is not 17, 19-year-olds. This is 27, 29. I'm wearing the same sweater, but I swear it's a different day. I started, what's it called? Restore Me, the fourth book. I'm struggling. Anytime she references the fact that she's the commander or in charge of North America, I die a little bit inside. How do you guys read this without giggling the whole time? Like, I can't take her seriously. In the first, I would say first 2.5 to 3 books. Well, no. The first book, I couldn't stand Juliet. The second book, I started warming up to her. Third book, I was like, okay, girl, get it. And then at the end of the third book, I was like, so you're just gonna, like, y'all know my thoughts. Like, just declaring that we are the ruler of North America. Cute. Love that. Love a girl boss, but she's 17. And I think I left off saying, like, I'm really just going to try to, 1, age her up, and 2, pretend
that it doesn't bother me, but it's really hard when she makes it so hard. She is acting. Now, I thought maybe, okay, so she's 17, she's gonna be this ruler. Maybe they're gonna make her like a badass bitch. She's gonna be really good at her job. She's gonna be like so confident and smart. Not the case. Well, first she says like something that I was like, this is unbearable. She was like, I didn't think being commander of the North America was going to be easy, but I didn't think it was going to be this hard. Like, what did you expect? So one thing that's frustrating is like there are people who are good at leading. There are people who know what's going on, but they won't tell Juliet. Warner's not really telling her anything. He's not cluing her in. He's not like ushering her into this new role. Castle's not even doing that. Castle's like was the leader of Omega Point, the little rebel army that got decimated, and then Juliet took over. But he's like a 45-year-old man, and he's lived a little bit of life, and he knows how it is to lead. And he's like telling her like, hey, these are some things to be like look out for. And then she's like, okay, can you tell me why? And he's like, I don't think so. I think you gotta figure that out by yourself. And so not only is our main character Juliet being kept in the dark, we're kept in the dark. And it's so frustrating because you know that there are people around that know what's going on. Tell Juliet, hey, there's something fishy here, but won't tell her why. And it's like so evident that this girl has no life experience. She's relying on these people to help her. They won't help her. So what are we supposed to do? Like, it's actually wild. And then she starts talking about how she gets this like, how like she had one day of respite of like just being happy. She won the battle. She's the supreme commander. And she had one day to just enjoy food, enjoy life, enjoy sleep. And then her like Warner's lieutenant comes up to her and he's like, hey, so your mail is piling up like really, really high. And she's like, my mail? And he's like, yeah, your mail, I'm putting it all in your quarters. And she's like, my quarters? And he's like, yeah, like you're the supreme commander. Like you have your own quarters. You don't just have to shack up with your boyfriend. And she's like, oh my God. And she's like fussing about how there's all these quarters and there's, I can't with her. It's so frustrating to be completely kept in the dark, but then also like, you're like, why are we in this situation? And why is no one helping? And why is no one being like, hey, maybe maybe this really unstable 17-year-old girl shouldn't lead the entire country. And you know what? She's not. She's like fussing about having to answer mail. I'm not picking up the like military prodigy vibe here. It's really frustrating to have to read it because it's just stupid. You're like, there's no stake in this because a 17-year-old is the leader of the country and no one seems to care. No one's really trying to help her and she's not really doing anything and there's nothing for her to do, but she's the leader of the damn country. So I don't know if this is going to get spinned into like a Katniss thing, like a fake importance, if that makes sense, where eventually things will get slipped and really she's not actually the supreme leader and that people were just kind of like letting her think she was. I'd be down for that. I'd be totally down for that because she's not really leading a whole lot here. I might be being a little bit harsh because it's a possibility because I'm not that far into the book, so maybe things get better and I'm having like a big gripe and that's just part of the story development. But from reading the other 3 books, I really just don't think that's the case. And I know I'm being so harsh on this because it's a YA fantasy book, like dystopian book. It is along the same lines as Divergent, and I would definitely put it in that same category. It is not Hunger Games. It is not like Shadowhunter World. Like, those to me are great YA fantasy slash dystopian novels. This leans much more into like the Divergent category, and I feel like I'm gonna get hate for saying that. Maybe that's just me reading this as a 25-year-old. I really tried to come in with this like with a really low bar, but like this reminds me a lot of like The Selection, of just being like, it's fun to read, but if you think about it too much, like you're gonna have a headache.
Cool. Like I'm some of the small ones are kind of cool. It's gotta be
We're long overdue for an update. I have read all of Restore Me, all of hold on. There's so many of these books that I'm like getting so mixed up. I have to look at Goodreads. I think I was in the middle of the 4th book when I talked to you, and I've since finished the 4th book, read the 5th book. I'm on the 6th book right now. So yeah, I think I was currently reading Restore Me. I ended up giving that 2 stars. And then I read all of Defy Me, which I gave 3 stars. And I'm currently in the 6th book, which is Imagine Me, which is the 6th book. So I have lots of thoughts. I gave Restore Me 2 stars. I did not like this book very much. This book was kind of a nothing burger. Nothing really happens, and I got really frustrated. Y'all know me, I have my pros and cons list. So my only 2 pros were Kenji and Nazira. Like, I loved both of them. I love Nazira a lot. I was grateful for like a female presence that was strong and steady and like stable. Juliet is a little bit exhausting just because she's like constantly suffering. Now, that sounds heartless to me, but it is a little bit draining to read 6 books worth of just like one character truly suffering the whole time. It's slightly what I imagine a little life to be, of just like constant horrible things happening to one character. And as much as I have a lot of sympathy for her, being inside of her head as she's going through turmoil constantly, it's like, okay, we need something else. So Restore Me, I thought, was a little bit dumb. And as I just said, like, there's a lot of suffering that happens in the two books that kind of come after that. So I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but yeah. So Restore Me, nothing happens. It's a lot of Juliet being like, there's a lot of feelings and not a lot actually happening. There's no strategy happening. There's no plans happening. Restore Me happens right after she declares herself as the supreme commander, and yet nothing happens. She's not figuring out a plan of where we go from here. She's not being on the offense. She's waiting for something to happen to her. And even though there are like really important events or things that she should probably be focused on, no one's telling her about them. No one's aiding her. And that's something else that I felt really frustrated by, is like everyone keeps telling, like, keeping Juliet and thus the reader in the dark about things. They'll like allude to like, you really should know about this, or you should really talk to this person, and then nothing happens. I'm like, why don't you just tell me what's going on? Okay, because at this point I'm getting frustrated. That happens a lot with Castle, and then I got really frustrated with Warner actually as well. He was like kind of useless in this book. Of he was dealing with his own trauma, I get that, but he also knows that Juliet is way in over her head. He never prepares her for things that might be happening. She looks so incompetent during the majority of this book, and I just found it so frustrating. I have noted here as well, foreshadowing not done well, hard to know which events are actually important. And this was my thought specifically when with the main big catastrophic event at the end of the book. The whole entire book, we are having like Juliet like complain about how much mail she has to deal with as the Supreme Commander, and how she thought she would be working on like world peace, but she's not. And I'm like, baby girl, you have to come up with that plan. It's not just gonna come to you. And then at the very end of the book, these characters are like, yeah, so we're going to the symposium, right? And she's like, the what? And Warner's like, oh yeah, I mentioned that to you, but I didn't, get much further. And it turns out that there's this big event that's happening in 2 days where all the Supreme Commanders, all their regents, everyone is going to be there. And Juliet's expected to be there. Juliet's expected to give a speech. And everyone like is gathering, and she has no plan. There's no strategizing. There's no nothing. It literally just happens. And then a catastrophic event happens where Juliet thinks she kills the 600 people because she has like a psychotic break. She sees people she loves dying in the crowd, and then she just starts screaming, and then it appears that 600 people in that crowd die because of her powers. And that's how the book ends. That event was not mentioned at all, really, until like a couple chapters before it happens, maybe. And there's no preparation. It's not hyped up as this big thing they need to prepare for. There was no plan. We had no insight into what this event was. And then it's just humongous. And I'm like, don't you think that would have been an event that like all of them really were trying to care about and strategize, when all these people and all this huge army were gathering for the first time with Juliet as the 17-year-old commander? Like, 2 stars. I haven't wrote my review yet for Defy Me, but honestly, I enjoyed that book better. I gave that 3 stars because I really appreciated having Kenji's point of view. As you all know, he is the only constant in my prose column. I really thought he was refreshing to get a point of view from him, and you're not just stuck with Warner and Juliet or Ella. I thought it was interesting. There's definitely more plot, but again, like, it's a whole lot of telling and not a lot of like actually showing, and it's a lot of like bad guys just showing up and being like, you fell into my trap, ha ha. At the beginning of Restore Me, you find out that Anderson, so Warner's dad, did not die, and he's like, ha ha ha, I'm back. And could have called that from a long way away. I really felt like Nazira and Kenji were the main stars of that book. I like Warner and Juliet. I thought it was sweet that they have loved each other for their entire life. But again, they're like morphing into these characters that I care about, but also I'm just like, y'all need to just like have... Like, I want for them what, like, Katniss and Peeta needed, which is just, like, seclusion so that they can, like, heal from their traumas. And the fact that they, like, have responsibility of how this world moves forward is, like, I'm just, like, tired for them, and I'm tired about reading about their suffering. There's some really heavy graphic things in these books, and especially with Emmeline, like... holy shit, there's so much happening where it's this weird mix of like this really heavy topics and really heavy things, and then like the plot devices and the care that was put into the plot is like not supportive of that. So it feels a little bit conflicting, where it's like, whoa, this is really heavy, but then we have really cheesy, lots of plot holes, like things. So it's like hard to give the books the weight I think that they deserve, because I do think that they have potential, but I can't
put my finger on what it is exactly that I would want to fix in order to like it more. Currently, like in Imagine Me, like it's the same problems. And I think I don't like that, where it's like it's the same crisis it over and over and over and over again of like, we're running away from Anderson. Anderson finds us. We try to kill Anderson. Anderson survives. We run away from Anderson. We're hiding from Anderson. Anderson finds us. We could try to kill Anderson. Anderson survives. We hide. It's the same thing for like 3 or 4 books now, and I'm just kind of like, okay, would someone just chop his head off? I don't know why that didn't happen. Couldn't tell you. There's a lot of like, that's something I really didn't appreciate about the ending of I think it was this book, maybe it was either at the end and then the beginning of this book, or it happened in Imagine Me, but Kenji and Nazira get shot after a battle with Anderson, and Anderson's trying to find Juliet, and Juliet's like hidden away. There's this huge battle, and the scene ends in Kenji's point of view of him getting shot and he's getting taken away, and Warner having stabbed his dad. The next POV is Juliet in Anderson's custody. None of that was explained with someone that had a POV being there at the battle. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're telling me all of these things, but I'm playing catch up constantly. I don't know what's happening, and maybe that's on purpose and I'm just like too dumb to see the foreshadowing, or I'm just like frustrated because I'm not being spoon-fed the plot, but I would rather have watched the battle go wrong. I would have rather seen that happen and be shocked when Juliet gets taken away, or frustrated when they realize that Juliet was taken away, rather than waking up in Juliet's POV and Anderson's alive and me realizing that she was taken away, and then I'm back in Kenji's point of view and he's playing catch up from everything that happened. I would rather have watched it than have it be explained to me. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, that's my big old update. I'm going to try to finish this series by tomorrow, and we're going to wrap up this vlog and I'm going to get it uploaded. This has probably just been like 30 minutes of me ranting about Shatter Me. I'm so sorry. I know you guys love this book. I understand why you love it. Maybe I'm just too old for it, but I don't think that's true, because I think YA is for all ages. I think there's so many YA books that I genuinely love so much. I love Six of Crows. I love Caraval. There are so many YA books that I've read when I'm older and they still hold true, that I really, really like them. Even sillier ones like The Selection. I still really enjoy myself, and this series, like, I do have affection for the characters. I do really like them. In no way, shape, or form would I ever see myself rereading these books, and in no way, shape, or form do I think that I would ever find comfort in these books. But I also haven't ever gone through trauma like these characters, and so I say that from a point of true actual privilege of like not being able to relate to it. I think there is something to say for people who have had to be long suffering. I understand where they could find the series very comforting with the resilience of the characters, and I really respect all of the characters. I'm not annoyed by any of the characters. I'm annoyed mainly by the loopholes and the plot devices and the focus on a ton of flowery writing without like plot to back it up. And I think the feelings focus versus like actual like making the plot make sense was very apparent, and I guess it depends on what you're looking for from the book. Okay, I needed to pause my reading because currently we're at a point where like Warner's losing his mind. Juliet was stolen by the reestablishment and she's being made into this like brainless super soldier, and Warner's like on a mission to get her back, and he's kind of reverting back to old ways and acting like an asshole, and Kenji's like, you're not going to get her alone, like, let me come with you. And Warner's like, stop following me. I'm not saying this to be dramatic, like literally get away from me. I don't want your help. You don't understand. And he tells her, like, I'm gonna just read it because this, like, literally almost made me cry. Because one of my favorite relationship dynamics in this whole book, if not more than Warner and Juliet, is Kenji and Juliet. And so for Warner to say this and completely undermine the way that Kenji and Juliet actually truly have love for each other, that's not a romantic way. I just, like, dude, come on. He says, single time you claim to understand even a fraction of what I'm feeling, I want to disembowel you. I want to sever your carotid artery. I want to rip out your vertebrae one by one. You have no idea what it is to love her. He says angrily, you couldn't even begin to imagine, so stop trying to understand. Kenji, more than anyone, even before Aaron, like, well, maybe not before Aaron, but, like, truly has been the one to pick up the pieces of Juliet and help her keep herself together. And to undermine his love for her when Aaron obviously knows how much he cares and loves for his fiance. Oh my god, I completely forgot to talk to you about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Not a big fan of the child marriage, but I don't know. That makes me upset. Like, I'm myself am engaged. Obviously, I'm not, like, in a YA fantasy novel. But the people that I know care about my fiance have my respect and my love because of the way they love my fiance. I'm not threatened by that, and I think it's a little bit... I think it's stupid. And now, I don't think that would, like, sway anyone's opinion of Kenji because Aaron said that, but it's like, come on, Aaron. There was a couple times when, like, both Aaron and Juliet have, expressed a little bit of, like, jealousy regarding other people in the other person's lives. Like, Juliet was weird about Nazira, and she was, like, kind of threatened by her because she's this beautiful, smart woman. And I don't know. It made me sad.
Art Deco. Our girl was trying to set a scene.
I'm officially finished with the entire Shatter Me series. Thank God. And it's time to wrap up this vlog. As always, I have my, like, little notes here with my pros and cons list. I'm going to try to keep this brief because a lot of my thoughts about these last two books echo the thoughts I had about all the other books. So for Defy Me, my pros were the plot was more engaging. I thought it was more interesting. There was, I think, more effort put into the plot of this book than some of the previous books. Still love Kenji, and I really loved getting Kenji's POV. I thought that was necessary to help the series move on, because if you were only in Juliet's POV for the remainder of this series, again, it would just, like, be a little too much to handle. For cons, there's just, like, so much suffering in this book that it's almost like it's just a lot to read, and it's hard to read it quickly because it's hard to read it on back to back with all the other novels because there's quite a bit of suffering in those books as well, and then it just, like, gets 10 times worse in Defy Me. In Defy Me, you also learn a lot more about Juliet's sister, Emmeline, and she, like, that's her storyline made me nauseous. What they did to her is horrific. Like, it's just so demented that it's just hard to read. It's hard to read that level of suffering for both her and for Juliet, and it was just a lot.
I put that in the cons category, but I don't necessarily know if that really was a con. It just, that was really heavy. I really was not a fan of the marriage proposal trope. I understand that these characters have been through a lot and that they do love each other. I'm not questioning anything like that, but I just wasn't super, I don't really like when marriage is a thing in YA, unless it's like set in the 1700s, or unless it is taking place much earlier in the much later in the timeline. Like if we get an epilogue where they are getting married, I don't mind that. But Juliet is either still 17 or freshly 18 when they get engaged, and it just made me slightly uncomfortable. I don't know. She's barely lived her life. Most of her life has either been erased from her, or she, and then now, I guess now she remembers, but like when they get engaged, she just got her memories back. Or she has been severely sheltered in like insane asylums, so, and like juvenile detention. So I just feel like it's an interesting choice to have them married. I think there could have been conversations around commitment. I think there could have been expressions of wanting to get married, of being committed to each other, of that partnership and that loyalty being present without them actually needing to be like engaged or married. But that is just kind of my own little pet peeve of like finding that slightly bothersome. Those were my main thoughts regarding Defy Me. Okay, don't mind my dog's tail and butt, I'm so sorry. I gave Defy Me 3 stars, which is actually a pretty decent rating for me. So as much as I had issues with things, with giving like my pros and cons list, I was like, I'm doing my highs, like things that I stood out that I was like, oh, I really liked that. And then my lows of things that I really didn't like. So so there were plenty of things that I just felt fine with and understood and was like, yep, okay, that makes sense. So I'm not really talking about those things. There were plenty of those things to have earned itself a 3-star rating. Okay, let's talk about Imagine Me. Last book in the series, I found it kind of bland and a little bit disappointing. I gave it 2 stars. My pros, I literally wrote I'm coming up short on the pros. Kenji will always be added to every pros list, no matter what. It did make me cry. I put this in the pros list, like the scene with Juliet and Emmeline at the end, that made me cry. I think that probably makes everyone cry, but it did make me cry. And then for cons, goodness gracious, look at my cons. Okay. Juliet being like the constant punching bag, like so much more suffering that she has to endure, that it almost got like a little bit sickening. I really was disappointed with the way Warner gets Juliet to snap out of the super soldier mode. So in this book, Juliet gets recaptured by the reestablishment, and they essentially are hoping to wipe her again, like wipe memories, make her kind of this blank slate. And because her sister Emmeline is their like star power, she has extreme telekinesis power, and like another word, but basically she is the reason why they are controlling the entire world and population of civilians. So Emmeline is on the brink of passing away, and they need someone they can transfer basically Emmeline's mind into Juliet's body because her body is stronger. Now, one step of that was to kind of wipe her and make her into this super soldier shell person. So she basically answers to the main bad guy in the book. Now, this main bad guy is Warner's father, Anderson. I know I have mentioned him. I don't know if I'm being like super thorough with explaining this plot, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably have already read the books, and if you haven't, this probably just does not make any kind of sense to you. But Anyway, towards the end of the book, Warner and Kenji find Juliet, and she's this shell of herself. She doesn't remember them. She's a super soldier. Think 4 in Divergent. So remember that scene in Divergent when 4 is told to attack Triss, and Triss points the gun to her own head and says, "It's me, it's me, it's okay, it's me, 4, it's me." That scene, I like still think about that scene. That scene is very poignant. Impactful. Like it leaves a lasting impression in the connection between the two of them, in the trust between the two of them, all of that, all the good things. So that we basically get that scene where Warner is having to fight Juliet because Juliet has been commanded by Anderson to kill both Kenji and Warner, and so she's like set on killing Warner. Now, Juliet, this whole time when she's been a super soldier, has like inklings of having memories that she can't remember. She has these feelings that are familiar feelings, but she's not sure how to place them or what they mean. And when she's with Warner one-on-one and she's like trying to kill him, she has these kind of remembrances coming back, these strange feelings. However, we get the point of view of that fight scene from Kenji's point of view and then Juliet's point of view. And from Kenji's point of view, he really doesn't go into a lot of detail. He's just like, oh, she's throwing some things around, and then he's doing his own thing. He's like not super aware of what's happening with them. And then when we get Juliet's POV, the way Warner like wakes her up is essentially they hook up. And as they're hooking up, she remembers the feelings and whatever. Warner's saying like, come back to me, but they're literally making out, like he's shirtless, her top's up, like it's like a borderline steamy scene. And I just thought that was an interesting choice. I would have rather there been like an emotional connection. I wish there had been a POV from Warner as he's trying to like not hurt Juliet but also make sure that she doesn't kill him. I thought that was just a missed opportunity, and I thought that because of the way that her memories get like broken or she gets returned through like hooking up with Warner, I just thought it was interesting and a little odd. I also felt like the timeline was really unclear. I didn't know if the book was taking place within a time span of a couple days, if it was a couple weeks, a couple months, or even a year. That was really unclear. Still don't know, to be honest. There's lots of loose threads that aren't tied up, so little plot points that will get brought up and then won't be followed anywhere. Off the top of my head, there was like an assassination attempt on Warner, and then that kind of didn't go anywhere, and that wasn't fully explained in full detail. Like I didn't fully understand why that happened. There was what? There are two characters, Noria and Sam, who are leaders of another kind of like rebellion group. It wasn't explained what that rebellion group really stood for, what their end goal was. It was never explained why Noria and Sam were privy to certain information, provided information that was vital to the plot, to the main characters when it was convenient, but it wasn't really explained like why they knew that information or how they got to know that information, at least not to what I could pick up. And maybe at that point I was kind of skim reading, but I don't think it was ever fully explained. Those are all my thoughts on the last two books. Overall, like I said, I think the series is fun and it passes the time, it's entertaining, and it's got some lovable characters. Is it a series that I can see myself really like rereading again and again in the future? Probably not. But I also think that if you're looking for something that's fun and adventurous and has endearing characters, I think this is probably a really good option for you. I am happy that I read them just because I am glad I know like what it's about, and culturally, like in book talk in the book world, I like to be in the know. So I like that I read them because I understand it a little bit more, but it's not something that I would ever be like, yes, you absolutely need to read this series. I'm gonna be wrapping up the vlog here. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun reading this series, and I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these reading vlogs in the future. I actually think I'm gonna do
a Twilight read-along video sometime soon, probably in November, so please watch out for that. Please watch out for a new episode of Book Report coming soon, and I'm also probably going to be doing like a what I read in September and October. If you enjoyed this type of video, please let me know. I like to be able to put out content that I like making and that I like enjoying myself, but sometimes I'm not sure if you guys are enjoying the content, so please let me know. I'm gonna go eat lunch and hopefully not get bitten by my puppy. I love you.